Hey guys, it's Scott from the Forgot to Grow Up podcast, and welcome to another edition of ReWatching Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. Today I'm going to be talking about Season 1, Episode 5, The Girl in the Flower Dress. So as you guys know, if you've seen this series before, and for those of you who are new, I'm just going to give you the quick IMDb plot summary for the episode, then give you guys my thoughts, and then talk about some of the different foreshadowing elements that popped up in this episode that kind of foreshadowed things in the future. Alright guys, so let's just dive in, and I'll give you guys a quick, really quick plot summary for this, which is Centipede kidnaps another gifted dude, S.h.i.e.L.D. tracks them down, and some secrets about S.h.i.e.L.D. are revealed. Yes, that was very brief. I didn't feel like reading the whole synopsis. A lot happens in this episode, guys. We get reveal a bunch of different things, and I really enjoyed that about this episode. So one of the first things we learn is that the team at least learns that S.h.i.E.L.D. still has some association with the rising tide. We discover that she's still working with her boyfriend hacker dude, and had been leaking some information, which ends up leading to the capture of one of the gifted individuals by the Centipede Project. Alright, and so the different things that happen in this episode are just all kind of really big foreshadowing things for the different plot lines throughout this season and the second season. Mainly this first season though, a lot of different setups. So we first get introduced to Raina in this episode, who is the face or the recruiting member of Project Centipede, and she's kind of the one who's kind of taking in these different, recruiting, I guess the best way to put it. She recruits the different gifted individuals to come, and she tries to convince them, being like, oh, you're going to be like Captain America, but in actuality they want to run experiments and try and figure out what it is that give each of these gifted individuals their powers. And so they take this gifted individual from Hong Kong in this episode, and they extract what protects his cells from his fire abilities. He's able to create fire, and the reason his skin doesn't burn up is because his cells have special platelets. So they end up taking those platelets from him in order to improve on the Centipede Project even more. And we see the doctor who we had been introduced to in the first episode, I believe it was, where she had been working on Mike Peterson, and she was part of the Centipede Project that had helped give him his powers and his gifts. But yeah, so we get a bunch of different little elements in this one. We got Raina's introduction, which I really like. I always like her character in this as this kind of quiet, kind of kind of unasserting, but she's very, you can tell she's very manipulative and knows what she's doing, but she comes off as all innocent, even though she's not. I really like her introduction and her character. We learn a lot more about S.h.i.E.L.D.'s background. I especially like in this episode, we learn about S.h.i.E.L.D.'s motivation for joining S.h.i.E.L.D. and for having joined the Rising Tide to begin with, which is that she's just looking for her parents. She just wants to find her family, which is just a really cool motivation. I thought I really liked the way they introduced that in this episode, that they kind of had to really drag it out of her, take it, because she doesn't want to just admit it easily. It takes this whole ordeal of this episode for her to kind of come clean with Coulson about that she's never known who her parents were, and there's something about her connected to S.h.i.E.L.D. that, that's the only information she has, is a redacted S.h.i.E.L.D. file, and she doesn't even know, she can't see what it says. So I really like that we got introduced to that motivation in this episode, and that we know that actually leads somewhere in the future throughout this season, and the connection with Rain and the Project Centipede and all the different ways, the different things in this season tie in. And I really like that we got all these different elements in this episode in particular. What else did we see? We had Project Centipede, we had Dr. Darby, and then at the end we see Raina talking to some mysterious dude, and she asks him to contact the clairvoyant, which is a pretty big piece of foreshadowing. The clairvoyant gets teased throughout this first season until we're finally introduced to him at the end. So I really like that little bit of foreshadowing. They left it for the very end of this episode before they didn't drop it too early. They just left a little Easter egg right at the end for you to be like, who's the clairvoyant? And then they tease it throughout the season before the final reveal, which we get, I think, at the end of the season. I don't remember exactly. We'll have to talk about that when I get to that episode. But that's kind of all the different things that I noticed for foreshadowing in particular in this episode, guys. Obviously, as always, let me know in the comments below what I missed. But overall, I really just enjoyed watching this episode again. This episode I did remember, surprisingly, unlike the other episodes I've watched from this first season. This one I did actually remember a lot of because I like this episode. I like the introduction of Rain. I like the reveal of Sky's background, and I like all these different elements that we were introduced in this episode. But yeah, that's all my thoughts, guys, on this particular episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of this in particular episode. Again, if I missed any foreshadowing, or if there's anything you guys would like to hear for future episodes that I'm rewatching and things I talk about. Do you want to hear a little bit of trivia about each episode, or do you guys want me to focus a little bit more on some Easter eggs? I don't tend to do too many Easter eggs, but I like talking about the foreshadowing elements. Just let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And thanks again for watching today, guys. Have a good one.